Ho, 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 guys. Welcome to day 4 of the 7 days of Heavy Metal Mass with me, Tony Evans. And I look back at 2023 and some of the things that I've enjoyed, some of the surprises, some of my, as we already mentioned before, favourite song, favourite album, favourite gig. Difficult one because there's so much that goes on in my life musically. Now, what this one is, I think this will be, yes, that's what it's going to be, most surprising musical experience of 2023. Now, this isn't always going to be about heavy metal, you know me. It could be any of the weird and wacky genres I enjoyed listening to and just enjoy in general. But for me, I think one of the highlights for me this year just gone was interviewing. I had several interviews this year, but I will talk about my honourable mentions in a minute. But my favourite interview this year so far definitely has to be Richard Jobson from The Skids. Now, it's not been released yet. It's still on the sort of to be edited and sent out by Metal Ruse, the place to get all of your music information in Australia and around the world. Your heavy metal music information, it's the place to be. Australian founded and a fantastic website. Now, Richard Jobson, why would you say Richard Jobson of all the other people you've interviewed? Because the reason Richard Jobson was such a big thing for me was that I've been a fan of the Skids since I was about 14, and so even younger possibly. So sorry, I scratched my ear. So the fact that I had the chance of sitting down face to face, monitor to monitor, he's in Scotland, to talk about his music, his life, the new tour, the new album, was something that I, again, like when I interviewed Tony Martin and Tony Doolan, a couple of years ago, they really are life-changing moments for me. Because if you told 14-year-old Tony Evans, raggy-ass 14-year-old, that he would, very shy. I was extremely shy, so not the charming, witty raconteur now. I could barely string a sentence together in front of people at a young age. And if you told me then that I would be interviewing someone like Richard Jobson, I would have laughed at you, because music when I was a kid was the thing that it was the only thing I could communicate with. It was the only thing I could communicate to, and I could understand. And that's why it is such an important part of my life. And it has saved me, like my lovely wife and my children, and moving to Australia. It has saved me and my good friends. It has kept me sane, and it's a major part of me. And so I do bore people sometimes when I'm just talking about music. Look at my wife's glazes over, but I'm sure deep down she knows what it means to me. But what I'm saying is that, yes, Richard Jobson, and it was a funny old interview because I'd set it up for 9 o'clock, got all the lighting ready, got the notes I wanted to say ready. It was all day is all I've been thinking of at work. I thought, I've just got to get home, have dinner, have a beer, relax, go upstairs. And luckily, my darling wife said, you should go up there and just double check that everything's okay. And I sat down in front of the monitor at 8:30 and my phone pinged, and it was Richard saying, are you ready for the interview? And I was like, yeah. And it's straight in. And he goes, oh no, wasn't I meant to talk to you at 9 o'clock? I'm like, yes. It's I can't get hang of all these time zones. And so we basically had a good old chat. It was quite funny and quite relaxed. He was quite open about Stuart Adamson. I mentioned him in one of my shows a few weeks ago, just post the interview I did with Richard, which I wasn't expecting. I was going to sort of hold back on that kind of questioning because it's quite a tricky one. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please head back to the episode and have a listen. You'll find out. Yeah. So I'm really blessed, to be honest. I'm really blessed that when people reach out and say, could we get an interview? I generally don't mind who I'm interviewing. It doesn't matter if I don't know their music that well. I mean, I interviewed the Gems the day after, and I didn't know really who they were up until about that week, basically. I knew their previous band, but I didn't know their I didn't know that their new band, what it was sounding like, and so I was quite in awe of it. The great music, but they were lovely, and it was the first time I've been on an interview with three people on the screen at the same time, which was tricky because trying to aim questions at different people, not really sort of just general questions, because you don't want to just write questions to each one of them, because that's a bit tricky, because you might not get as much out of them. So it was best to just talk to all three of them, and it was a really fantastic experience, and that will come out again once it's edited, probably in a few weeks' time, hopefully very soon. That was talking about their new album. But honourable mentions for me, the interview with Son to promote the tour that she did with Iron Maiden, Aces High, was a real thrill, because we've been communicating back and forth secretly, because obviously none of the information needed to come out, and I saw the artwork before, and I was quite privileged. It was a really lovely thing to have. And then, of course, talking with Will from Past the Fall, he reached out to me because he'd listened to the show, and do you know what, honestly, the big one, the one I really, really got a lot out of, I was talking to the Burning from Perth, the lads there. I'm hoping to get both Son back on. I'm hoping to get Will back on. I'm hoping to get the lads from the Burning back on and just chat to them again and see where they, next year, what's come of them, because the Burning were pushing the album they so rightly needed to do so years ago. What an absolute fucking cracker of an album that is. The guys are so knowledgeable. Their horror film video collection is something to behold. I had to have a bib looking at the pictures. I was like, and some of the stuff they have, and of course, not just that, but the way they translate it into their music is so fantastic. Again, head back to the episodes earlier in the year, and you'll find the interview, and you'll find one of their tracks. Same with the interview with Will from Past the Fall, from the UK. They've played Hellfest and all sorts of things, and again, you'll hear on the end of the show a track of theirs. Please go back, listen to it, and then also go listen to the albums, because both of them are brilliant. I've been really lucky, very, very lucky. Hoping for some more next year. I'm going to try and be a little bit more proactive with guests next year, because a lot of people do say yes, and a lot of time I don't have time, or ask and I don't have the time to fit them in, which is always a bit of a pain. But life goes on. I'm going to try and do some next year as well. On the cards is to do some on-the-spot interviewing at gigs with musicians. Just going to just quick sound bites. Probably take myself use my phone or whatever it is. So look out for that. Anyway, yes. So keep music alive. Keep seeing live stuff. Keep seeing the big acts like Paul McCartney, because you're never going to see him again, most likely. The big acts are Iron Maiden, but also really cherish those intimate, well-performed, semi-professional, smaller bands, because they really do know how to put on a show. Anyway, that's for me. I'll chat to you tomorrow on day 5. Bye for now.